Excuse me, we have to leave you there for the moment. You are watching Dialogue with Mr. Makhdoom Babar, President and Editor-in-Chief of the Daily Mail in Islamabad, and Mr. Brandon Blackburn-Dwyer. We are talking about the political chaos arising from the assassination of a former Pakistani Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto. We'll come back in a minute. Don't go away.
Benazir Bhutto was born on June 21, 1953, into a wealthy landowning family in southern Pakistan. She would one day pick up the heavy political legacy of her father, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who founded the Pakistan People's Party. During Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's time as Pakistan's leader, he introduced parliamentary democracy. He also pushed what could be described as Islamic socialist policies. He won a landslide election in 1977. But allegations of vote rigging and corruption hounded him, and civil unrest broke out. In July the same year, General Zia al-Haq staged a military coup. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was arrested and executed 2 years later. Meanwhile, Benazir Bhutto was detained several times during the year of military rule. In 1984, she was released into exile in England. 2 years later, she returned to lead mass rallies for restoration of civilian government. In 1988, General Zia was killed in a mysterious plane crash. Later the same year, Benazir Bhutto gave birth to the first of her 3 children. She also led her party to an election victory, becoming the first woman to head the government of the Islamic State. However, she soon clashed with Pakistan's powerful military-led establishment. 20 months after becoming Prime Minister, Bhutto's administration was dismissed amid allegations of corruption. But in 1993, she was re-elected again as Prime Minister. 2 years later, neighboring Afghanistan was torn by strife and the Taliban began to emerge as a major force. But Bhutto adopted a very firm hands-off policy towards the various factions in the civil war.
We have no favorites in Afghanistan, and we do not want to interfere in Afghanistan or influence their power-sharing formula in any way whatsoever.
In the preceding decade of political struggle, Bhutto was arrested on numerous occasions. In all, she spent nearly 6 years either in prison or under detention for her leadership of the then opposition Pakistan People's Party. Although re-elected in 1993, she was thrown out again 3 years later by then-President Farooq Laghari on more graft charges. She left Pakistan in 1999, just before a court convicted her of corruption and banned her from politics. The verdict was later quashed, but she stayed away. On October 18, 2007, Bhutto returned to Pakistan after an 8-year exile. Her homecoming parade in Karachi was also targeted by a suicide attack, killing more than 140 people. On that occasion, she narrowly escaped injury. She said she had prior warning before returning home that suicide squads had been sent to attack her.
I do not believe that any true Muslim will make an attack on me, because Islam forbids attacks on women. And Muslims know that if they attack a woman, they will burn in hell.
Bhutto vowed to continue with her campaign to become Prime Minister for a 3rd time, despite the threat of further assassination attempts. But the late former leader eventually met the same fate of her father and 2 brothers who were also killed. Bhutto's family legacy was put to an end with her assassination on Thursday. The latest violence leaves Pakistan with the prospect of a chaotic election in January, and many fear a renewed eruption of violence across the volatile South Asian nation.
CCTV 9, China's only English-language news channel, broadcasts throughout China and across the globe. CTV Golden Bridge is CCTV International's exclusive advertising agent and can put your company in touch with an audience of millions.
Welcome back. Now, Brandon, do you think you can understand fully the feeling of the Pakistanis for not being sufficiently respected, particularly when it comes to how they handle their own domestic and internal affairs?
I think I understand it. I think that you have to look at Pakistan as a country caught between a number of different difficult situations, both internal and external. As I pointed out earlier, Musharraf was not always the favor of the West and the world leaders. Coming to power through a coup put him in an initial starting point in the bad books of many Western leaders. With the change in the war in Afghanistan, Musharraf became a public ally. With the lessening of tensions with India after the Kashmir conflict, Musharraf became an even stronger ally to many of the West. You now have a situation where President Bush is held accountable for an international war on terrorism, both by the American people and by the global community as a whole. One of the key allies and frontline generals of this is Musharraf and the Pakistan army. This leads to a situation where the American president is answering questions for the activities of a foreign government's military, which is not fair to either party, in my opinion. President Bush does not have command and control over the Pakistan military, does not actually have any right to tell them what to do, can ask, can advise, can request. But when the media comes to him and says, well, why aren't they doing this better? Why hasn't this improved? It's been a week. Why hasn't this changed? He's forced into a situation where for politics, for public image, and for simply just being a human being, he must come up with an answer. And this puts Pakistan in a situation where they're not getting questioned on the actions that are their responsibility. And as such, does lead to a valid claim that they are not as respected or as involved as, say, the American president.
What do you think of this finger pointing that it is the U.S. who has encouraged Madam Benazir Bhutto to come back and to form a kind of a coalition or political alliance with President Musharraf, and her homecoming is so stormy that it has really endangered the already fragile and vulnerable political situation in Pakistan?
Well, evidence that the United States was involved in coordinating discussions between Musharraf and Bhutto is evident and clearly in the public eye at this point. Bhutto has generally admitted it. Musharraf has generally admitted it. Actually, to detriment to both of their popularity ratings within Pakistan, oddly enough. Saying that it was the United States that has instigated instability is unfair. While Madam Bhutto's assassination is a loss to Pakistan and I believe to regional security and to the world for a leader of outspoken ideals, her return, her lack of paying attention to security concerns, her open desire to lead her people from the forefront and return to it was hers and hers alone. She had been lobbying Western powers to give her support to come back. She'd been lobbying Musharraf for almost a decade to allow her to come back and take control. It was her choice, a very brave choice, and one that ended in tragedy.
But Mr. Babar, do you think it is possible for Madam Benazir Bhutto to make a political comeback without the support and very powerful backing of the U.S.? Because the White House has promised to and is committed to a lot of massive economic and military assistance to your country after the successful invasion announced of the Taliban.
Well, I think if you go by the Pakistani politics culture, anybody openly having a U.S. backing is not welcome. The moment the news about U.S. supporting Benazir started coming in the media, her popularity graph went reasonably down. Okay, it was, U.S. backing was required to negotiate certain things between President Musharraf and Benazir, but an open publicly open support of the U.S. can weaken any leader in Pakistan in that sense. And that is what my opinion is, that it had in fact damaged her popularity in the vote bank, this U.S. syndrome.
Do you think her popularity has also been seriously weakened after she has agreed to forge a coalition with President Musharraf?
That I don't think, but there are a few other elements, a few statements, like once he made that when I will come to power, I will allow the foreign forces to do operations against extremists in Pakistan. Similarly, a few things about regarding the nuclear program of Pakistan. These were a few things that brought down her popularity. As far as her negotiation with President Musharraf is concerned, that can have some implication on the party leaderships, but the voters, the workers, the general public, they had no problem in it.
A follow-up question on what you previously said a few minutes earlier, that you said something like it's been your tradition to have political violence, to have bloodshed in political struggles, and military coup attempts are often repeated to replace the civilian leaders one way or another. Do you think this is the DNA of politics in South Asia? Is it also a reflection of the spirit of a martyrdom for Muslims to, kind of make this a very expensive sacrifice to ensure political support?
No, I don't think religion has got anything to do with it. There's nothing religious about it. But in this case, if you have seen, Benazir Bhutto was provided with extraordinary security blanket. Same security blanket that President Musharraf gets. He was inside a public rally place for hours and hours, thousands of people there, but the killer could not make one single attempt. He was attempted only when she came out of that area, and he was sent into a bulletproof car, very expensive, again given for her tightened security, and then he came out of the car out of the blue. He was not supposed to come out, then he was hit with the bullets. So this is, this has got nothing to do with becoming a hero, but if you violate certain security measures, similar thing happened with Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, Indian Prime Minister. He was also assassinated because he did not, go by the security blanket given to him or security procedure or details. Many leaders in this part of the world, in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal,
Who will enjoy absolute security, since the Pakistani troops have also become the target of the attacks of the Islamic extremists in your country?
Well, extremists are on the run now. They are not like they are ruling or they are grouping or regrouping somewhere or they have some headquarters. They are on the run in the mountains now.
The question behind this question is whether the ruthless assault on the Red Mosque in June this year has really triggered the lethal unrest among the the Islamic radicals.
First of all, let me correct you, Mr. Rui. It wasn't a ruthless assault. It was a very well calculated military operation, and done with all the comprehension and all the calculations. Troops had to wait for 10-15 days so that maximum children and women should be brought out of that area. That was again something very vital, very important for the safety and security of the people of Pakistan to have an operation there. That was a military operation. Okay, yes, the people who were occupying the Red Mosque, they tried to play the card, the religion card, and of course they got sympathy.
The assault was somehow viewed as ruthless, partly because it's kind of a showdown between General Musharraf and the extremists, since his motorcade narrowly escaped at least 2 assassination attempts. And there have been so many attempts at his life.
But this operation came particularly after those people kidnapped Chinese nationals in Pakistan.
Right, 3 Chinese nationals who were killed 1 month later.
Yes, those were killed, and later there have been, now Pakistani government is in possession of the evidence that a foreign hand was involved in that. And soon these evidences would be given to that foreign government.
Do you think the Bhutto family influence has totally fallen apart, and there won't be any of such kind of a family politics in your country?
Yes, I don't think so that Bhutto legacy is going to be any more there. Maybe if any of her children, she has 2 daughters, 1 son, if someday they jump into the politics, maybe then it will begin again. But right now, Bhutto family politics are over. It's the Pakistan People's Party. They have their own leaderships. Alternate leaders are already there. And for years and years, many government establishments have been requesting Benazir Bhutto to step down